Welcome, one and all, to the very first episode of Common Sense Paranormal Radio. I am your host, Rick Hale. Now, I know many of you may be wondering, Rick Hale, who in the world is this guy? Well, it's very simple, really. I have been involved in the paranormal for pretty much my entire life. I am a writer, having written numerous, almost countless articles concerning the paranormal, as well as writing 4 books on the subject. And over the many, many years that I've been involved in this, I've also been involved in paranormal podcasting, starting with Paranormal Underground Radio back in the early 2000s, and most recently with the Shadow Initiative Paranormal Talk and TV with Rick Hale and Stephen Lancaster. So here's what happened. I have decided that I would finally go solo, that I'm finally going to go out on my own and try and do my own thing. And that is what I am doing here with Common Sense Paranormal Radio. Something that a lot of people, they may say, or you may hear a lot of when it comes to paranormal entertainment of any kind, that we're doing something new, we're doing something different. Well, here is the thing, ladies and gentlemen. I am doing something new. I am doing something different. Here at Common Sense Paranormal Radio, not only do I want to entertain, but I also want to inform. And with that informing, this podcast is going to have pretty much no production value whatsoever. I know that may sound kind of silly, but here I thought that I'm like, people, they want to hear about the paranormal. They want to see interesting guests. I know people that I'm going to have people on the show that I find interesting, and I'm hoping that you will find interesting as well. People involved in the paranormal, as well as entertainment, horror, science fiction, fantasy, authors, writers, fellow podcasters, those kind of guests we're going to have right here on Common Sense Paranormal Radio. And so there's going to be no music, no silly graphics, none of that kind of thing is going to be happening here. This is just going to be a very stripped down way of podcasting, pretty much going back to the old days of how we used to do it before high entertainment value took over. So I really do hope that everybody does enjoy this, because I'm going to enjoy doing it. I'm going to enjoy talking about things like ghosts and monsters and aliens, and talking with people that really are making a difference in the paranormal. And one of those things that I want to do on this show, and I actually put it at my Facebook page as well as my Instagram page, I really want your stories to talk about on air, to read on air. Anybody who has had anything dealing with any aspect of the paranormal, everything from psychic phenomenon all the way up to alien abduction. And I think it's really important so people understand what it is that I am trying to do here at Common Sense Paranormal Radio. And one of those things that I want to do is I want to talk about my own experience, how it is that I came to be involved in the paranormal, because everybody loves a good origin story, and I do have a interesting origin story. Now, I know that in paranormal land, everybody wants to hear, you dealt with something evil in your home, or you were attacked by a ghost, or a monster, or you were abducted by aliens and they subjected you to all kinds of horrific scientific experimentation. And although I do believe that does happen, in fact, I have no doubt that it happens, because I've talked to many, many people in the paranormal, many reliable people that I know are telling me the truth. My experience is somewhat different. I actually had a very positive experience when I was 8 years old, and I'm going to share it with you here today so you understand what it is when I say that I want your stories. So this is something that I had written for a paranormal study many years ago called My First Ghost. And it goes as follows. In the early summer of 1982, I was an 8-year-old kid with a front row seat to his parents' bitter divorce. When all was said and done, my sister and I moved to the suburbs of northern Illinois, and my dad stayed in or near the city of Chicago. He moved back in with his parents, and it was in their house, my grandparents' house, that I witnessed and interacted with my first ghost. It was late on a Saturday night, and my cousin and I witnessed our beloved Chicago Cubs get their butts handed to them, which they often do. Yes, we know they're terrible, but us Northsiders love them regardless. As I lay on the couch wide awake playing with my Star Wars action figures, I suddenly felt the overwhelming urge to go to the bathroom. So I jumped up and made my way to the bathroom. When us kids spent the night, my grandmother would always leave the light in the bathroom on. The long hallway that connected the back of the house to the front room did not have a light. And as you might imagine, the hall could get frighteningly dark. When I approached the bathroom, the unthinkable occurred. The light suddenly went out, plunging me and the hall into darkness. The only light that came through a window was in the kitchen. Fear gripped me until a woman stepped out of the bathroom. At first, I thought it was my grandmother, and I was about to say something, but then realized this woman was much taller. Whoever this person was, they most certainly were not my grandmother. As I stood there staring up at the stranger, she turned and looked down at me, and a smile crossed over her heavily lined face. She then said with a thick Irish accent, "My, what a fine boy." The fear that I previously felt was replaced by peace. I watched as the kindly old woman turned and vanished in front of my young eyes. The next morning, as we sat eating breakfast, my grandmother could tell that something was bothering me. When she asked if I was okay, I responded that I saw this strange woman in the hall last night. While my cousin greedily downed his cereal, my grandmother smiled and said, "That was just Mrs. McNett. She will not hurt you." Many years later, after that experience, I learned that Mrs. McNett was the wife and owner of my grandparents' house, and she died 10 years previously. I also learned that I wasn't the only person who had seen this kindly old ghost. My uncle saw her on 2 different occasions, and she stopped a cousin of mine from burning herself on the stove. In life, Mrs. McNett loved children, and that love and urge to protect transcended the grave. 10 years ago, that house was torn down to make room for a more modern building, and needless to say, I was heartbroken. I credited that house and Mrs. McNett for sparking an interest that has lasted a lifetime. When I become that which I seek, I hope I'll get the opportunity to thank her. And that's exactly what I'm looking for here at Common Sense Paranormal Radio. Like I said, not only am I going to speak to interesting people who are making a difference in the paranormal as well as paranormal entertainment and in horror, sci-fi, and all kinds of spookiness that you could possibly imagine. We're going to meet right here at Common Sense Paranormal Radio. So I'd like to thank you for giving me these first few minutes to introduce myself as well as the show. And I hope to be bringing you many more in the future. Thanks, and have a spooky week.